horror games.
I've been in a bit of a spooky mood lately. And being that I'm such a big fan of the original Doom games, I want to see if there's any good horror mods made on the Doom engine. While digging through the endless list of mods over on ModDB, I encountered countless horror projects that have long been abandoned or just forgotten to time. While the site is chock full of amazingly well-crafted mods and fully complete projects, these are sparse in comparison to the number of unfinished and often unplayed mods hidden on the deeper pages of the site. For some reason or another, there were scarcely any mods listed under horror that ever really reached their full potential. So I figured, why not make a video showing off some of these lesser played horror mods that have been forgotten to time. Plus I figured this would be a good way to shed some light on a couple of Doom mods that might have been forgotten to the sands of time. A couple of things before we start. All of these mods are going to be run on the GZ Doom version of Doom 2. And I also won't be combining them with any other mods unless the developer specifically recommends it. Lastly, I'm going into all of these completely blind. Other than the short blurb on the ModDB page, I have no idea what these mods are about before I play them. My only real criteria for picking mods was that they were A, on the Doom engine, B, were horror-based in some way, and C, were either abandoned by the developer or just completely forgotten about in the depths of the ModDB forums. Other than that, I really just chose whatever mods looked cool at the time. There's plenty of mods I won't be mentioning for time's sake, so if there's some forgotten Doom gem that I missed, let me know down in the comments below. And with all that out of the way, let's get into it. The first mod on the list is Derker Derker, which is described as an action survival horror World War II game for the GZ Doom engine, set in the Rise complex in the Owl Mountains. The player wakes in a cramped prison cell with no memory of where he is or how he got there. As with a lot of these forgotten mods, many of them no longer run on the current version of GZ Doom, so this mod was nice enough to include an older version in its download that is still able to run it, which is always a nice touch. Two things jump out at me right away. First off, the game is dark, and I'm not just talking tonally, I mean visually. I'll try to brighten up the footage a bit in post, but just know that I can't see shit while I'm playing. It's a little annoying, but I'd be lying if I said that it didn't make for some pretty cool and cinematic moments here and there. Second, the difficulty here is all over the place. Playing on any difficulty other than the easiest results in you just being one-shot by everything, and the easy difficulty doesn't fare a whole lot better, with your character usually only being able to take 2 or so hits before going down. That being said, I thought this was a really well-made little mod. I'm not sure how much credit I can give here, as the mod description says it's borrowing a lot of stuff from a ton of other mods, but regardless, this was a neat little survival horror mod. It's only one level, set inside of a World War II era German prison, with your character trying to fight their way through reanimated zombie prisoners and soldiers, akin to something like the zombies mode in Call of Duty World at War. There's a couple of cool little environments here, like the surgery area at the end. Sadly, considering this mod has been radio silent since 2017, I don't think it will be getting any sort of update anytime soon, which is a shame because I could see this being a really cool zombie horror survival mod. I did take a look into the developer to see if they were still making stuff, and thankfully they are. They are currently working on a project called Trenchfoot, which is set to be a total conversion mod for Doom 2, set in some kind of Warhammer-inspired World War I-esque apocalyptic holy war. And from what I can tell, the mod is still being actively developed, as recently as October even. The entire look of the game really piqued my interest, so when I saw they had released a prequel episode to Trenchfoot back in 2022 called CountryCide, I decided to give it a go, which brings me to our next game. And I'm going to be honest right off the bat, this mod fucks. Like hard. Just like the last one, it's only one level that will probably take a little over an hour to beat, but let me tell you, it's one hell of an hour. Basically, the gist of the mod is that you're a general in a holy army that rules over the world, more or less just the Imperium from 40k, and one night you have a vision from God telling you to visit some village in the middle of nowhere. So you go and find the whole place overrun with cultists and witches doing rituals and summoning eldritch beings, and it is awesome. The atmosphere is super gritty and just nails the whole grimdark aesthetic, especially in some of the indoor environments with all the blood and various other body textures. The inside of the buildings and the sewer areas are super detailed and honestly just look really good, and it sets up the mood so perfectly. The underground areas too just give off such a Lovecraftian, otherworldly vibe, with the dark cavernous rooms that stretch on, and the never-ending catacombs that you will legitimately get lost in. And this mod is genuinely creepy at times. Like when you're first starting out, you're just trying to determine where in the world you are, and you can hear all the weird noises in the distance and see stuff moving in the corner of your vision. It gives off a legitimately creepy vibe, and I'd be lying if I said there weren't more than a few times where I genuinely got spooked by something in this game. When you enter the house for the first time and start making your way through all the rooms, shooting cultists and occasionally seeing a witch disappear before your eyes, your pants definitely will go a little brown. And then this giant eye just stares at your soul, and you turn to leave, but the staircase is gone and it's been replaced by this horrible abomination. The whole thing is just so creepy and unnerving. And I also got scared by the mirror. If you like creepy Lovecraftian themes, this one is for sure worth a quick playthrough, even though it's short. It's pretty obvious that it's just a tech demo to get you hyped for the full project, but let me tell you, I am bricked up for the full release of this game. If this one level is anything to go off of, the full mod is going to be an absolute behemoth of a game that I will personally be watching very closely. Just take a look at these screenshots and tell me that you're not at least a little interested to play the full release. There's also an alpha build of the main game Trenchfoot on ModDB from a couple of years ago, but I'm not going to go over it in this video since I've already spent a lot of time on this developer. So do yourself a favor and go give this a quick play and keep an eye out for the full release. Alright, next up we got Trauma Effect. And yes, it's spelled with an A and not an E. And while the first two games on the list were decent little teasers, this one did not do it for me. It falls under the category of horror game where you just sort of walk around with a flashlight while semi-creepy stuff happens around you, and you're more or less just confused the whole time. It's also just really short. It only took me like 15 minutes to get through the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure part of that time was spent with me getting up to go to the bathroom and making a coffee, so it's probably more like 10 minutes all up. You just kind of walk through empty halls while creepy ambience plays, and you occasionally see some creepy writing on the walls, and then it just kind of ends. I get the feeling that the developer's first language isn't English, because a lot of this writing comes off as just kind of edgy, and a lot of it is just pure nonsense. I don't want to knock them for this, but if I'm being honest, it did hinder the gameplay experience a lot. I checked to see if this one was still being developed, and all the devs' posts just kind of confuse me, and it sort of comes across as some sort of schizo posting. Like, apparently the game was being developed and then it got deleted and then just abandoned altogether, I guess. I'm not really sure. It felt like they were trying to do a Lost in Vivo kind of a thing here, but without any of the stuff that made that game cool. Maybe just skip this one for now. So after the last game, I wanted to take a crack at another horror walking sim type game, and I found this one called VHS Master that looked pretty cool and bills itself as a short, experimental horror game. The screenshots looked pretty cool, so I decided to give it a shot. It wasn't until after I downloaded the mod that I realized it was coincidentally actually made by the same developer as the last mod, Trauma Effect. So I was hoping this game would make up for my experience with the last mod. And well, it was fine. It wasn't bad or anything, it just kind of was. It's basically an analog horror walking sim where you play through 3 really short levels based on tapes you find in the game's world, and the whole thing took me less time to play than the last game. The first tape has you walking around in the woods and into empty buildings until you're trapped and a spooky noise plays. The next finds you in a forest with a tree made of arms that later chases you down. And the final tape has you walking around a satanic house that eventually burns to the ground. Each level really only takes about 1 to 2 minutes to complete, and I was more so confused while playing than scared. And look, these types of games have never really been my thing, to be honest, and this is a free mod made by basically one guy, so I don't want to dunk on it too hard, but I don't know, man. The visuals were kind of cool at some points, the whole analog VHS look, but gameplay wise, I'm not really sure. Credit where credit is due, the whole thing seems pretty well put together for what it is, but I'm not really sure I would come back for more. Maybe play it on your own and decide for yourself. Finally, we're going to round things out with a bang and play a little game called Stero Dead. The ModDB page for this one bills it as a short, cartoony zombie shooter where you run around killing hordes of undead that have come to life due to some sort of meteor crash, akin to those old school black and white horror movies like Plan 9 from Outer Space, for anyone who's seen it. And let me just say that this right here is what the Doom modding scene is all about. All the weapons, environments, and enemies are custom made, and the whole thing feels goofy and slightly amateur, and there's some really strange game design choices here. and I absolutely love it. The reason I say this game represents the Doom modding scene is because the whole thing is clearly cobbled together by one person who just had an idea and wanted to make something fun for others to play on a game engine that is near and dear to many of our hearts. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you can tell the developers really cared about what they were making and tried really hard to make something that they themselves would play. And it's a shame that it seems like only a couple hundred people actually played it. If nothing else, the game's got heart and it's got character, and honestly, I'm sure all of us have played more than a few AAA games in the past few years that were lacking in both of those traits. The creator, Taunton Mayonnaise, has got some serious talent, and we need more people like them in the Doom modding scene. But onto the actual game itself, and I need to make a side note here. Apparently, the game isn't actually supposed to have this bluish-green tint on it the whole time, and I'm actually just stupid and don't know how to load Doom WADs properly. The game is actually supposed to look like this. Apparently, I had the gamma turned off completely in my options for some reason, which is why you're seeing footage from two completely different color palettes. To be honest, I thought the game was supposed to look this way, and it was just going for a cool and stylized sort of alien look, and I only realized mine was messed up when I went back to look at the screenshots on ModDB. To be honest, I almost prefer the blue tinted footage as it feels kind of cool and unique to me, but just know that I was the one who screwed up here, not the developer. Either way, the game still looks cool, and if you prefer it with the regular color palette, just know that that's the way the developer intended. But anyways, essentially you're a little cartoon dude who lives underground to hide from the hordes of zombies that have started roaming around due to a bunch of asteroids that have fallen to Earth. Your job is to go to a bunch of locations throughout the town to clear out all the zombies and destroy all the meteorites to stop the dead from coming back to life. To help you on your journey, you get a variety of melee weapons that all do varying degrees of damage, and you also get your hands on a few guns, with a pistol, shotgun, super shotgun, as well as a laser pistol and rifle, and some throwables like Molotovs and pipe bombs. Between each level, you can stop back at the underground base to trade junk and coins dropped by zombies for supplies like food and ammo, and you can even find rolls of toilet paper throughout the world that can be traded for new weapons. There's also a few achievements in this mod that you can unlock that allow you to purchase some special secret weapons, and that's pretty much the gist of it. You go into each level and kill all the zombies until you get to the end. It's honestly just a good bit of mindless fun with some cool weapons and a fun art style that will keep you entertained for an afternoon. Plus, I really just enjoy a Doom-style game where you spend your time slicing up tons of undead enemies, especially with all the gore effects flying around. If you like goofy old-school B-movies and you're looking for a good time just killing some zombies and having a bit of fun, then give this one a shot. The developer also has a ton of other games in the same vein as this one that I hope to try in the future. And that's all the mods I played for this video. To be honest, I actually had a lot of fun looking around for all these hidden little mods and showcasing some of the smaller games that I guarantee you most of you never heard of. There's a ton of other mods I found that just looked amazing and I didn't have a chance to cover in this video for time's sake, but considering just how fun it was to make this video, I might just make this a bit of a series where I go looking for hidden gems on ModDB and other sites. If that's something you're interested in, then let me know down in the comments. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, consider subscribing and maybe leaving me a like or a comment down below to let me know what you think. And thanks for all the love you guys have been giving me on the past few videos. I really never thought anybody would ever watch these, so I'm glad that you all seem to be enjoying them. Thanks again, and I hope to see you again soon.